James. Not wasting any
Dive
time.
in.
Yeah. Appreciate you coming through, my dude.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me, bro.
Welcome back to Durham.
G Yamazawa, man.
Peace.
All right.
For those that don't know, I guess most people watching this will know who we are, but if not, my name is Justin. I'm a communications and media director at RUNAWAY Clothes. Let you introduce yourself to the people.
My name is Alex. I'm not officially affiliated with RUNAWAY. I'm just a hip hop enthusiast here in Durham.
And we all know the man of the hour,
G Yamazawa.
Mr. George.
Yep.
I don't know your middle name. Jr. Yeah, man. How's it feel?
Pretty
New
good,
albums
man.
out, being received
Yes.
pretty well.
Yes.
Pretty well is kind of an understatement, but
Yeah, it's
Man,
been good.
definitely surprised, bro.
Yeah?
Definitely like, you know, I've been working on it for a minute. I think people been, you know, I put out a couple of hip hop projects.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people mostly know me for poetry.
but
you
maybe
know,
not at this point. I mean, I think that some people, especially after the video, the North Cac video from the album, sort of like went viral on the internet. We've had people of all kinds, people that I didn't even think listened to hip hop.
Yeah.
Yo, have you seen this video? Dude, that shit is crazy.
Yo, this dude, I was at the airport today, and you know how it'd be a dude pushing like a old lady on a
Sure,
wheelchair?
Yeah.
So this black dude was pushing this old white lady on his wheelchair. I was walking by to go to the baggage claim, and he passed by me. He looks at me, and, you know, he keeps going. I had my headphones in, so this one dude was like, hey, somebody's trying to talk to you. And I turned around, he was like, hey, you rap, bro? You know, and he left the old lady there, like 10 feet away from this old lady, and we was chopped it up for a second. He was like, bro, you killed that shit, dog. I was like, I appreciate it, man. I was like, felt bad for the old
This
lady.
was an RDU?
Yeah, this was like 2 hours ago. Yeah, already.
Hell
And so it's a good feeling, man. It's a
That's great.
pretty great feeling, and I feel like I'm like, bro, I can spit, man. Been trying to tell fools for I'm like, I can spit, bro. I can do this, and you know, people, I think for most of the time we're kind of like, all right, cool, man. Well, good luck with the music thing.
They want to see you prove yourself.
In a way, yeah. And I mean, and it's righteous, you know. I understand it, but yeah, it's been a great feeling, man.
And you've been in Cali for over a year now, right?
Yeah, coming up on 2 years technically. Yeah.
How is that for someone from Durham? How has that experience helped you break out of that spoken word mold and really push yourself as a rap artist? I mean, Cali's like, you know, I mean, New York's the mecca, but
It's a big
California's a pretty dope spot to try and like cut your teeth doing hip hop. So
well, man, I think luckily, probably around 2010, I was younger. I was like 19, 20 at the time. I kind of officially moved away from the idea that I was a poet and felt as if I was an artist. And I think that was a huge turning point for me, just in general, as a human, as an artist, as a creative. And, you know, from then, at that point, once you sort of realize you're an artist and you're a creative, then however anyone views you really is sort of obsolete. And you kind of just move forward in the world with a certain vision, whether it's, you know, writing a book of poetry or a children's book or working on an album or working on clothing or I'm trying to work on a children's book. Yeah, so I think I'm probably one of the rarer cases of a cat who can spit rhymes and also, you know, and I also found out Dr. Seuss was like heavy.
he got bars?
No, he was a big.
You read
he was
Green
a big.
Yeah.
He was a big supporter of the Japanese internment camps at the time.
Really?
He's actually super duper racist. Guy.
So this went the opposite way we were thinking. Okay, cool.
It's kind of like fuck Dr. Seuss almost.
Damn.
So me, I think
That's
I
crazy.
personally have this kind of vendetta where I'm like, you know, I'm gonna create the next rhyme-centric book for the next generation of children of color and minority groups, and sort of, you know, I think now because of the internet and like people's collective consciousness, like, you know, people who did all kind of crazy shit in the past, like people that's just coming up and it's first surfacing. And
He was like really anti-Nazi, which is weird to me.
Yeah.
He would be.
people are complex.
That's
you know?
true.
And
They
also,
are now.
Yeah.
They're still complex.
Yeah, and they're also a sign of the times,
Sure.
a sign of the, I imagine, and possibly you and possibly a lot of us probably would have been for internment camps at that time. Or
Being a good person can be dependent on what time you're living in.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Sure.
Good is pretty relative.
Yeah.
Looking back though, it's like, it's not.
Yeah.
But you know.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
at the
think
time, I can imagine there's a lot of pressure to just be along with everything else.
For sure. I just remember reading that on like Wikipedia. I was like, what?
Yeah.
You know, I was like, oh. But no, I did get contacted by like literary agent to try to possibly do a children's book.
Why you in California?
It was on the internet. Like they reached out to me just through the interwebs or whatever, and they have Japanese American authors on their roster, and they had been showing them my work. Yeah, man. So children's book or album or whatever the case is, you know, I definitely just want to add to the world.
Yeah.
And so, what's been great about this album though is I sort of like I put so much pressure on myself, and I think a lot of us do that where. Or not enough, right? But my issue was I always put way too much pressure, and my last EP, like, you know, just so many mistakes because I felt like you had to do this a certain way, and you had to have this kind of production value, you had to work with these kind of people.
Yeah.
You're trying to like nail yourself into what other industry people did.
In a sense, or you know, you just. If you don't know what you're doing, you kind of just try your best to and you're so hard on. I was just so hard on myself and feeling like, you know, there's no way I have the manpower or resources to do this the way I would want to do it, or I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm a pretty solo dolo kind of cat. Like I'm cool with a lot of different communities and spaces, but when it comes down to it, I'm pretty like rogue cat that's in and out of a lot of different spaces. So I don't have like a team. You know, I don't have a immaculate taste or fresh air or for you know
so
like
management,
kind of dream. You know, I don't have kind of like
publicity.
And I don't have.
It's all you.
In a sense.
Yeah.
Well, no, Runaway's been a huge part of it all, man. Runaway, I think even just putting on a Runaway shirt before a show and feeling like, you know, it's definitely deeper than the clothes.
Yeah.
It's definitely, you know, it feels like a flag, you know, every time I put on a damn shirt. So.
Well, and how's that been? I know Alex and I talked about this pre-show about going from being in Durham out to California. You know, in Durham, you have a pretty dense network that you can build with. So if you're trying to make music or make connections elsewhere, there are a lot of people you can lean on. Whereas in California, you're in a sense starting from scratch, I imagine. So what has that experience been like, trying to reestablish yourself in a new market?
Well, LA it's like that for you, no matter who you are. I've learned LA is a really lonely city.
Yeah.
Everybody's from somewhere, and everyone's trying to make it somewhere, and that's everyone, man. That's the bottom of the barrel. That's the top of the top. And you're just kind of somewhere in between, trying to make it work. I think what was dope about my situation is that I knew a few key players in like, especially the Asian American arts community.
Okay. It's big out there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the Illuminati out there, bro. Korean Illuminati, dog. Like Korean folk, I mean Asian folk, you know, in general, but especially like you go to K-Town, you sort of realize how much, you know, the DJs, the bloggers, the fashion streetwear owners, the radio personality, you know, they're
it's
mostly
more than
run by.
music.
It's not just the artists, right? And there's plenty of them too.
Yeah.
But you know, the sort of underground network of people is so expansive, and you never know who you're running into at any given moment in time. And also, like, you know, there's hella filmmakers. There's hella. Anything you could find. But I think what's been doper than all of that kind of is just the feeling that they're there. And so that's an energy that
the Asian creative community specifically.
That too, but
Just
not
the whole
just
network
just LA.
around the musicians. It's like there's so many different opportunities for you to do something with someone who's not just a musician.
And you just know that, like, you know, Dr. Dre somewhere.
Yeah.
Within a 30-mile radius, he's somewhere in the studio working. Kendrick, you know.
And even in terms of like triangle, you know, rappers out there, you got King Mez.
Mez is doing his thing,
I got in LA too, so it's
really
like
dope.
You know,
Bobby James is out there, and it's just a spirit, and I feel that in Durham now too, though. You know, in its own sort of ecosystem of a sense. But you know, LA is like you wake up and you're like, let's get it. You know, people are getting it. There's traffic. There's hella people. People are doing all the different things, and but then there's also this like kind of southern aspect of just like people just chilling, and the weather's perfect, and people are very friendly and progressive, and people are, you know, just sort of enjoying life and the palm trees, and you know.
I'm very attracted to LA for that
Have you been?
I have not.
Yeah, it's definitely great for sure. And I think I'm fortunate I've been surrounded by great people.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think there definitely is like the plasticky aspect of LA and sort of cons to anywhere you go. But it's been beautiful for me, for sure, man. And I think I've also, though, been on the road a lot. So I actually haven't been in LA that much.
Yeah.
And I get to still experience the seasons, which is big to me.
Yeah.
You know, I get to visit home a bunch. I'm sort of all over the place too. So it's been cool. So I look forward to really sinking my feet in the next year or two.
Is that a pilgrimage you felt like you had to make going out there?
LA?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Since I was a kid, bro, you know, my sister went to school in Southern California.
Oh, nice.
So I was like 12, 11, 13 when I was first visiting there.
Okay.
And so when you're 13 and you get exposed to the weather and you know,
The
honestly,
vibe.
just the vibe, you know, just the
the
weather
vibe,
itself is just like
the weather creates everything out there. It's
It is
like
pretty-
if it feels good outside, it's kind of hard to not.
it's incredible.
Just feel good about life.
Exactly.
Yeah. And just knowing that there's like these Asian folk that look cool, that are like, you know, there's an Asian community, and so I always yearned for that, and it definitely I felt like it was a bit of a pilgrimage in a sense, but
So that actually comes to something that like we were talking about as well. Is like you know, moving out there, you know, it's probably not as abrupt a fresh start, quote unquote, because you'd already had that poetry to rap. So moving to a different area, kind of had something similar. But like in terms of like the Asian American hip hop community, you know, is that? I'd imagine it's more expansive than here.
Yeah.
But is that still like a really small
You're
niche?
the only one.
Or is that like, you know, is there a real network, or is it more like it's a network but it's still really small in comparison to
yeah, no, it's definitely, I mean, what's dope is that, you know, the heavy hitters, like just the West Coast vibe in general, as far as, of course, you know, Dumbfounded, Bamboo and all, you know, Geo, all of them being kind of just West Coast artists in general. And things are sort of just more acceptable, and I've learned sort of to be able to link with, so Waveman, I don't know if y'all have been able to check out the record, but Waveman produced 4 tracks on my album.
Okay.
And they're a duo, so it's this cat named Classic and this cat named J Chu, and I've known J Chu for a minute. And Classic is kind of like this whole K-Town kind of underground legendary cat who's known all of the cats just throughout the years. Had a studio in NoHo that he worked out of for like 4 years that just everyone used to come through. And just dope cats, man, just like cool dudes, man. I don't know if y'all familiar with Year of the Ox as well. They're like blowing up right now. But 2 Asian cats, but they're actually both from Virginia.
Okay.
Nice.
But you know, Rick is one of the cats I was cool with, but he knows they're all connected.
Yeah.
They all know each other.
Yeah.
And I think even more so than just, you know, getting to work with different Asian cats or just, you know, mobbing out. It's more of a just knowing that you're within this lineage, this like echelon of great Asian American artists who really transcend their Asianness. It's so inherent and natural. It's not like, yo, we Asian rappers, you know. They're just who
it's
they
just
are.
a natural thing. They're expressing themselves in a natural way.
And it's been really dope, man. So classic J Chu, you know, shouts to them fools, and but yeah, and there's a lot more to grow and learn. But one key guy is a guy named Bo Sia. He's a sort of legendary Asian American entertainer and poet. Who was on like all seasons of Def Poetry. He was won a Tony, was on Broadway, and he's sort of become this like mentor figure for me. And so keeping him close has been a really, you know, having him in my corner has been really good for me, just moving forward as a human, as a young man, and as an artist in this industry, man. So, you know, the world's changing, man, like real rapidly, bro. And Asians are really like, you know, coming up. And, we got our own sort of you know, pathway and way to do things and stuff. So
You think you could take Dumbfounded in a battle?
hell no. I'm way too compassionate, man. I feel no way.
Yeah.
And I got just the most, you know, utmost respect for Dom. And
He's really been able to, I mean, to your point about transcending being, both you guys made this point about transcending being an Asian artist. I mean, he's all over the map now. Like, he's doing music still, he's doing battles, he's doing film.
Too.
Yeah, he's like really putting himself in a position to be a successful creative across the board, and that I think is just a product of the times too. It's like you have to be multi-dimensional. You can't
Exactly.
just be a poet. You can't just be a rapper. You have to really have a skill set that is mendable, that you can take to different places and different people.
Especially if you're gonna move out to somewhere like LA. I mean, you can't be one thing unless you're already at the top of being that one thing. I mean, that's a lot of people move out there. They try to be a musician, and that's it. They don't expand, and then they come back home. It's like, but yeah, I mean,
And this has been dope for me, even just on a spiritual level of like being close to the Pacific Ocean and just being closer to Japan, and you know, sort of just knowing that people are speaking Japanese. I walked through Little Tokyo and people speaking Japanese. And just sort of that tip has just been, know I can get bomb ramen, you know, for cheap and anytime. You know, I can go grocery shopping at Asian joints. At the same time, there's also Armenia, little Armenia in Glendale. There's, you know, Cape Town. There's, you know, South Central is mostly Latino, black and Latino. I live on the edge of Inglewood, blue collar, like working class neighborhood. You know, I like. I mean, it really is diverse. And it's like a lot of. It's like a city.
It's diverse, but also like magnified.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there are plenty of places in the country. I mean, Durham is relatively diverse, especially for a southern town. But LA is like diverse, and then like fucking million more people. You know, like they just have so many more people.
You can fit a lot of Durhams in LA.
Yeah, exactly. So you have this opportunity to just like build with so many good people. I've been on like my playlists have all just been like West Coast music lately, like Vince Staples, Anderson .Paak.
I mean, I saw you post the other day asking for East Coast artists.
Yeah, because I just been stuck about like West Coast vibe.
It's like,
to your point,
are there any good East Coast albums?
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, it's true.
I'm just listening. Like I put on Anderson .Paak when I'm on my bike coming into work, and if the weather's good and Anderson's playing, I'm like, man, I need to be there. Like clearly he's got something going on that's making him produce this incredible music, and like I need to experience
Not
that
to
for
mention,
myself.
If the weather's bad here, you put on some West Coast joint.
And it makes you feel better.
Shit's
Everything
better,
you feel better.
Like, your room just became sunnier. It's pretty.
Well, I'm interested in also just sort of like the way music's so globalized now, and that like where you're from really starting to matter less and less and less.
Sure.
And the sounds are really just escaping their
blending.
towns and they're blending, and they're I'm very interested in. I'm like bad at keeping up with it though. You know, so I don't really know
Well,
what's
you're an
happening.
artist. I mean, you're very much like when you're creative. It's hard to like break out of that. What you're doing. You really have to. If you want to create something special, you have to shelter yourself a bit.
Because you don't want to do the thing where you listen to what's up and then you're like, all right,
I need to do that.
Exactly. You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And so I mean, you can definitely hear that on the record though. Like the entire album, it's not trap. Trying to bite the craze or anything. You know, it's you throughout. You can feel it.
What's been dope, I feel like I finally found my sound. I've not, found it, but I've like starting to actually, every artist at a certain point, like when I first was doing poetry, the thing you always get told as a young poet is like, you gotta find your voice, find your voice. And you're just like, what does that mean? Like my voice is here. But you get it, and at a certain point you find it, and you're like, oh, this is my voice, and I love this voice, and I'm gonna continue to cultivate this voice. And I had found that in poetry. I felt very confident in my voice, but I hadn't found that in rap for a long time. So it was easy for me to rap over other people's instrumentals because it wasn't clear what my sound was. And the EP was dope because I feel like it was that first kind of like trying out this fusion of trap, but also like introspective, stuff. Yeah, bro. This project, I feel like like North Cap and like One Crown and Leather Seating and sort of giving myself a little bit of range and get it and breathe. Breathe. I don't know if you heard. It's like this lovey joint and it's got a sad, it's groovy, but it's. I never would have. I sat on that record for a long time and it was bare bones and I had to re-record parts and I almost never released that. But that to me is one of my favorite joints and that sort of. Not being so hard on myself, letting myself talk about love, letting myself talk about whatever I want to talk about. But I feel like I wanted to sort of encapsulate like how I felt when I was like 11 listening to like word of mouth.
Well, yeah, and you really get to that, especially in 1990.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
honestly,
I texted you. When I first heard that, I played it here in the store. It was like, what day did the album came out? What, on
May 3rd on Wednesday.
On a Wednesday. Okay, so I worked the shop Friday. So I came in Friday, and we got this big ass Marshall speaker here. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna crank this. And I didn't really give it a listen yet, so I was like, I'm gonna just crank it from the beginning. And that song came on. Who is it that you texted me who did the beat?
This Japanese cat,
Right.
Setsu, from Japan, and he's all hardware. So I couldn't.
Oh really?
Oh my
So
goodness.
I didn't get the stems from him till like 2 weeks before we did the album.
Wow.
Because I was like, bro, like we can't mix this because we don't have the stems, and it took forever. It took me a couple years. So I've been sitting on that record for a long time too.
I mean, that's just like has a very classic like boom bap 90s feel to it.
Exactly.
And it's just that's something like I mean the like track itself. You have the sort of outro at the end, but like, the track itself is only like a minute and a half.
Yeah.
And it's just straight bars.
It's a solid interlude. Like
Yeah.
the actual track. I mean, you have bookended by long hook
Yeah.
over the beat, but then you have that minute verse that's just fire
Thank you, man.
from start to finish.
That might be my favorite track.
A little background about that joint too. So that one and Violence are the only two older records on the whole project.
Violence.
Okay.
Yeah,
That-
Violence. That's Apple Juice beat.
That beat is violent as fuck, man.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
shit, like
Shout out to Apple Juice. Yeah.
I first listened to that shit and I was like, no, I can't take it. And then you came on, and it was even more like the way you spit on that track was just, it's
If you go back and you sort of listen to the feel of the vocals,
Which you should do.
which you should do. Those two tracks are pretty. It's less mature. It's more of just like and I think like
you get a lot of
compared
feel
to
from it.
Breathe or compared to Leather Seating, there's just a lot more maturity in those later tracks. 1990 was like a long song. There was 3 verses. We sort of messed with the outro because I wanted to sort of incorporate parts of the beginning and have it be interlude. But it was a lot. If you listen, if that song had 2 extra verses on it, we wouldn't be able to get through it.
Yeah.
I don't know, bro. Just say that.
If you want to put the remix
say
on
that.
SoundCloud or something, like I'm ready.
Man, but
I'm
that
ready.
second verse was like had a lot of I think gems in it as far as the Bill Withers line and the Confederation line and
Yes.
black culture, black art, black
Yes.
music, all of that was very like and
Shouts
free
to
line,
Free
dropping
Line,
even
shouts
free
to
line,
the
you know what I
Free
mean?
Line.
Shouts to the free lines, and so it just kind of worked perfectly, so I'm like really happy the way that.
With that in mind, talking about the want to be a Durham legend. I mean, at this point, I think you've really
You might have
set
got
yourself
there.
apart
Oh, man. Yeah.
from,
You're getting there.
from the pack at least.
Yeah.
And the album is called Shouts to Durham, but you have been in California for you said the last 2 years. So when you're throwing around album titles, what is it specifically about Durham that you feel like is coming through in the album to warrant calling it Shouts to Durham?
So if I look at, I think when I sat back and looked at my career and my path as an artist, most of my work originally began, that I became known for, was first the poem about my grandmother and a lot of cultural and family history and depth. So it came from where you start. We all start from our families, right?
Yeah.
We all start. So I think my art began as this like homage to my family and my lineage. And the Yamazawa EP that I came out with a year ago sort of touched on a lot of that. Dining Room was one of the sort of singles off of that. It I feel like still revolved around the name Yamazawa and the cultural aspects of what it means to be a poet and a hip hop artist in this time. And so when I was thinking about like what my debut album, what would I be paying homage to? Like what's next in my process of path and journey as an artist? Like if I die after this album, I think a lot of artists really romanticize death too. You know what I mean? A lot of people in general, but artists are very like, I think deep down for true artists, for people who really are trying to create beautiful things and turn their pain into some sort of beauty, really want to be remembered.
Yeah,
And want to be
for
loved.
sure.
And most people want to be remembered either through their family or through their work or through their loved ones. And so, if I were to die after this record, this is the last record I made, what would I be honoring?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's where I started. And so I was like, I think it would be Durham. Like, what's next? And the thing is, I've been out in the world for a while now. 2013 we went to Europe. I've been traveling globally for a few years now. I've been traveling all around the country, and it was less about I'm a Durham cat, I'm from here, and I'm from Durham, and this is all. It's more of a just like shouts to Durham. Just remember, you need to remember and know that I'm who I am because of where I'm from, and I play with, and I love this Saul Williams poem called Telegram to Hip Hop. Y'all should look it up. It's really dope.
Okay.
But he sets it up like a telegram. He's like, "Hey, dear hip hop, stop. This shit has gone too far. Stop." And it's a crazy piece. One of my favorite pieces growing up. And at the last line is, "P.S. Give my regards to Brooklyn." and I remember loving that line. I was like, "Oh, that line is crazy." And I just felt like I wanted to have that spirit of like, "Yo, give my regards to Durham." At the end of the day, shouts to Durham. And I think it works as a title, like on a just kind of, if you take away the depth and all that, it works because people are used to saying shout. I was like shout out or shout outs to Durham, and I was like, no, shouts to Durham is kind of, it's got this kind of oddly mystic, feel good aspect to it. And I remember on the radio, on 102 Jams. That's why it's crazy 102 played my shit, It's trippy, dog. It's real trippy. I love, mad love to K97.5. But, you could hear, you heard the word bitch on 102, not 102, and they had like more leniency with cuss words for some reason on 102. And I don't know if it was industry, whatever. But I grew up loving 102 Jams. And you had to, get the right.
Because you couldn't find 102 Jams. They were like, we can get anything, man. So I remember just there was the morning, like people call in the morning and shout outs to my family, shout outs to this, and all right, cool, shout outs to. I remember growing up being like, man, that's dope. Like you took time out of your day and your morning to call and just shout out your homie who's going to work or their birthday or this and that. And so I love the concept of giving thanks. Giving appreciation and remembering and loving where you're from. Like wherever you're from there. And it's major who you are. You have to acknowledge it in some way. Exactly.
And then also like a tip of the hat to kind of like the renaissance that's happening here and all the beautiful things. And it's been very bittersweet over the last couple of years not being here. And then when I actually sat there and looked at the track listing and the tracks I had, it had a very like, a lot of my music has I'm talking about Carolina, I'm talking about Durham, and so there's this kind of somewhat of a concept in it, but it just worked, and I just moved forward with it, man. I think it's been working, man.
And
people appreciate it.
I mean, in addition to like naming it shouts to Durham, because you had some kind of formation here, you had some kind of realization here,
for sure,
in your path to become an artist. But for me, I think one of the most striking things was the jazz influence throughout, and how. It wasn't necessarily like To Pimp a Butterfly where every track had that really strong jazz influence and brought you back to like the 90s when it was all over the place with the boom bap, you had the jazz sample. You had a way of stringing it through very subtly in some tracks. Other tracks, it was that saxophone. It was really the saxophone to me, honestly. The saxophone from Highway 751 to the end. You just had it. Might skip a track, but it comes back, and it's like it's the most powerful thing. So
you play the sax?
No, I can't play shit, man. I can beat, that's about it. You know what I mean? But
you can play that.
Instrument-wise, man, I bought a harmonica for my 21st birthday, and I learned like a riff.
That's cool.
I can do that on a harp.
It's about to be on a G Yamazawa track.
I'd love to. Man, this project, the Highway 751, that beat is produced by this cat named Groove, who I know through a good friend of mine who they're Hillside cats. And so, Brandon Henderson was like one of my best friends at Gittins when I went to Gittins, and Benjamin Groove is one of his roommates, and they actually live in Atlanta now.
Okay.
But I've been sitting on that beat for like 2-3 years. And I wanted to write, that was supposed to be on my EP. And I've been listening to that song, that track for years now.
For me, for me, Shouts to Durham is the perfect title for the reasons you just described. It made sense to you. Highway 751 is the perfect opening because it is truly the synopsis of everything you're about to hear. Yeah. You're about to hear a lot of fucking saxophone, and then you're also about to hear not necessarily boom bap, but more quote unquote modern type beats. Yeah. You know, with modern influences, with the jazz samples layered in as well. I mean, it's really a perfect beginning.
You know, I wanted something people could ride to.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the EP you couldn't really ride to.
You could ride out to it.
Man. But you couldn't. You really couldn't. You had to sit there and think hard. And, you know, I was like, man, I want to rock. Like, I grew up with a sub in my back seat, 12-inch, literally my seat leaned against the sub. And I was like, I need something that you can ride to. And so I wanted Highway 751 to be this, you know, I know I can bar out. I know I can rap. You're going to hear throughout the album. Let me just play you something that's just like put you in your car. Yeah. Sit in your car by your fucking self. Yeah. Just come vibe with me.
Yeah. You get the vibe. The fucking California vibe.
Yeah. And so, and just the tip of the hat to the jazz influence here and everything. And so, but I don't want to feel like a poser because I'm not a jazz head.
Sure.
I didn't grow up heavily with jazz. But you grew up
the saxophone by hip hop.
Me heavily, yeah, for sure.
And the hip hop was pretty jazz heavy. And I mean, you know, I've been harping on it, but it's definitely not a main focus, obviously. But it's the vibe that you were feeling. Yeah. You know, it gives you that feeling throughout, and you know, you can really tell that it's part of it. It's not just something you're like, oh, 90s hip hop. Let me put that in. Right. It's really how you wanted it to be, though. It was the way you felt the music in your body. You know.
What's next?
Just working on this next album, bro.
You already?
Well, dude,
it sounds like you're sitting on like hundreds of beats at this point. So the fact that you might have a new album is not that surprising.
When a video goes viral, you know, you get two things. Mainly is people, but hella rappers who want to collaborate. Yeah, makes sense. Who don't say anything to you.
I'm glad you said that because Sammy wanted to ask you that question. He left early. I'm asking it right now. Well, it came up in conversation, just so you know.
Well, you know,
he might be one of those rappers.
Well, I appreciate it, of course. I appreciate it, and I've. There's been many artists that I've reached out to who never reached back, or did reach out. And we did work on something now. But oftentimes, you know, I'm kind of like, yo, like you just seen this video go viral and you just hitting me up, yo, let's collab. Yeah. Well, yo, honestly, let's work. Yeah. Yo, I'm like, who are you? Like, you don't know. Like, you didn't even say nothing about the video.
Yeah. Like, on a lower level, I mean, on my Facebook feed, I've seen cats from high school. Yeah. Never listened to hip hop a day in their life, as far as I know. Yeah. Never would peg them to listen to hip hop. They see something with North Cat, share. Yeah. It's the same thing for other rappers. Like, oh, this shit's blowing. Let me get on that train. Yeah. You know, it's
and it's great. And I'm pretty I think in tune with where people's hearts are, and I try my best to with the time that I have to respond to every message and say, yo, I'm trying to focus on my own vision, man, but hopefully in the future, whatever. But then the other part is beats, right? So you get, yo, working on some new beats, and I love that though, because you never know what you're gonna get. And I'm like, yo, I just give them my email, and so they start coming, and I'd say about 87% trash.
Oh shit, we're getting exact here.
Trash juice.
I mean, that's the internet in general.
And that's the internet, and that's fine, true, and that's cool. And I think that, you know, I believe in being honest about the hierarchy, like true hierarchies, and things being a real measure of what I feel like is good art to me. But I listen to every single beat. I do. I don't just think, who are you? You got 200 followers on SoundCloud. Yeah. I'll listen to every single beat, and I come across some like heat and fire, and you know, and also sort of when your name gets whatever, people are more willing to. Producers you want to work with are more willing to sort of give you their best sounds. Yeah. Now I'm just sifting through and being more open to knowing what I want. Not just getting a beat and rocking over it, but getting a beat and getting the stems and putting my hands on every single sound. you know, and just getting in studio time with folks, and I'm excited, man. So I'm already sort of working on whatever the next joint is.
Yeah.
You know, when the album dropped, like it did so well.
Yeah.
Like I really didn't expect it to do this well. I really didn't. I really did not, yo. And I knew it was pretty good. I knew it was pretty good. But there's no way you could have caught me saying that.
Nah,
Sure.
And now I'm like, all right, my album's good, yo. You need to go listen to it.
Yeah.
But you know, people telling me, you know, they got it on repeat or they love every track. Random Strangers, like top to bottom, is a great track.
Dudes in the airport.
Dudes in the airport, you know, and people sort of like really come, people not from North Carolina or whatever. And I think a big shouts to Armand Hammer, who engineered the whole thing. There's no way it would sound the way it would if it weren't for him. So it's like, all right, cool. Like I kind of was allowing this praise to really get into my head, man. And it's been so short. It's happened so quick.
Yeah.
It's only been a week or whatever, 2 weeks, and I'm just like, I'm the greatest rapper. You know, like let me chill and work on whatever's next and start to really christen this vision. And,
But it is nice to have that praise because when you are from small town Durham, North Carolina, at times you feel like you've always been the underdog. Whether it's in the Triangle, you know, you got Raleigh and Chapel Hill always sort of playing like big brother to Durham for whatever reason.
Not too much
and then,
anymore.
Yeah, and then like just in the South in general,
Yeah.
you know, Southerners are always kind of looked down upon as being slow and dumb.
ATL is the mecca of the South, and even then, a lot
And
of people
outside
still
of
look
that,
down on that
yeah.
shit.
yeah.
So to have that praise coming from all walks of life
Yeah.
really said like, yo man, as Andre 3000 said, the South got something to
We
say.
got something to say,
you know?
man, yeah.
And it's important to continue to push that message and push that culture throughout. And you know, it is awesome and very just like for the album to be called Shouts to Durham is fantastic, and we go through a similar thing with Runaway where it's like we want to grow, but Durham is so much of who we are. We can never neglect that.
Yeah.
Whether it's like what we do here in the city or through the designs that we do. You know, we have you know we work with like the Durham Bulls, with the Durham City flag all over with the colors and everything, and we've got products with Durham all over them, and people need to know like, yeah, we're a brand that's trying to be global, but we're from Durham.
Yeah.
And like you will know that when you come to the store when you talk to us.
Yeah.
And so I'm just really excited to your point about the renaissance happening here on the creative side, not just like on the architectural side and development side, but on the creative side. You see artists like you and Mike Wells and even be able to import artists like Sylvanesso, who you know they're coming in from Wisconsin, but they like rep Durham to the fullest, and that just says a lot about who they are, what Durham's been to them.
Because Durham was their choice. Like they could have gone anywhere. You know, they're like, no, this is the place to be right now. This is the place where, you know, they vibe the most.
Yeah.
And they do not stop repping, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Are there artists for whatever next project you've got coming up? I know you worked with quite a few people on the Shouts to Durham that you've like sort of pegged as like, you know, it'd be dope to work with that dude.
Lil Jon, bro.
Yeah?
What? If I could do a record with Lil Jon,
We gotta make sure he gets this.
please, Lil Jon.
Hey, Lil Jon. This guy's got bars.
Please.
He's got charisma.
Please.
He's good on camera.
I think, you know, Lil Jon is pretty epic cat in my approach to art and music
He's
and
kind of
figure
an underrated
in life.
pillar.
Well, he became a
of Southern
punchline.
music.
Well, definitely Dave Chappelle made him into a punchline,
Sure.
and I think in a almost like immortalized kind of way.
Yeah,
you know, he
for
became this immortalized figure.
Yeah.
And you haven't heard a lot from him in a while, but the kind of, and I mean, you know, he's a lot of problematic things, there's you know, violent things like that. But that, I mean, that's America. You know, that's sort of like fuck, we don't want to fucking, you know, fuck with.
That's
know,
kind of
that's our side. Like that's American shit. So
I mean, you address that on violence, like
yes,
the culture that everybody tries to get away from. This violent culture of, you know, eye for an eye, but it's so steeped into us that it's hard to get away from. So it's like
right. So I don't, you know, I don't neglect that. I don't, you know, I'm not overlooking that.
No.
But I think if I could sort of harness that kind of feeling he gives people. With not only his records but his voice, and invigorating people to work for peace.
Yeah.
Like if you imagine a Lil Jon produced record about world peace or ending nuclear war. Like, you
Yeah.
know, I want to sort of,
Yes.
that's the kind of vision I have.
Yeah.
And I'm serious about that. I'm gonna keep
No, I
talking
know
about
you
that.
are.
until-
Yeah, that's
until
awesome.
then.
I think you should keep talking about that.
I
mean,
should try to handle him at some point.
Music is a really powerful tool,
Yeah.
and you know, there are times where it gets underplayed how much media and specifically music influences culture and the way people act, and like, you know, I would like to think of myself as a pretty non-violent dude, but there are definitely songs that like I put it on and I start to flex a little bit, and I'm like, yeah, if I, you know, like if the guy bumps me weird on the sidewalk, like I might turn
Right.
do
Start
something
setting up a little
uncanny,
bit, like,
yeah.
let me stretch out real quick.
Not really. That wouldn't actually happen, but just in my head, I'm like a little bit more brolic than I would normally be. And the flip side of that too, there's music that like you play it and you just feel so at peace with yourself and with the world. And it's like if you can just put more of that into the world, and people are going to the club and they're getting hype on this idea of, yeah, I'm gonna, like, you know, half of the proceeds from the drinks that I buy tonight are going to world hunger or whatever. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna get really excited about that. I'm
Or
gonna
even
blow all my cash
or
on-
even, you know, invigorating yourself to overcome your own doubt.
Sure.
Things,
Yes,
internal
yeah,
things
yeah.
like that. I think that's something because I grew up on Buddhism and like Lil Jon. Those are like kind of, if I thought about my, you know, that's kind of that, and that's what life is, man.
Sure.
You know, life is this spectrum of things you're influenced by, of things that move you, of things you want to fight for and against. You know, it's a lot of different things, and we all contain these multitudes. And so, you know, I just will never forget, you know, listening to Kings of Crump at 11 and just being like, whoa, son, what, you know, and but yeah, I mean, you know, I'm open to working with whoever, man, and just sort of trying to. I think I'd love to start working with mostly more like on the producer side, more than the rapper side. I think rapper side, like
You got a lot of connections, I'm sure, already.
As far as MCs and great spitters, and I'm confident in my own rhyming, but I want to learn more about, you know, putting my hands on every instrument. I'd love to work with Timbaland. I'd love to work with Blaze, and Swiss Beats, and Dre. I mean, all of the greats, of course. I know that someone passed my music to Chad Hugo, which is pretty dope. You know, so if I could ever work with Chad, I've always looked up to Chad Hugo as well.
That'd be amazing.
That'd
be amazing.
Yeah, I just want to start having great sounds and great concepts. And
You
so
know, Premier will be here this weekend. For
Really?
Breakfast.
That's right.
Yeah.
Be gone. Does he get in? You get in on Thursday?
Oh no. I mean, we know some people though.
Premiere too, man. If I could, man. If I could rock.
For
FaceTime.
FaceTime. You ain't gotta be in person nowadays.
Yeah. No, I'd love to. Yeah, I mean, all of the greats, man. Anybody I could work with would be great, man. But like I said, I'm a pretty solo dolo guy. And no matter what happens, I'm gonna continue to just keep doing this shit, man. So, I definitely love this, man, and I definitely don't care about money. I don't care about fame, and I don't care about sort of.
But it might be coming your way.
You know,
The album's dope.
yeah. Thanks, man. I wanna.
You touring?
Want to start? I'm still doing poetry tours for sure, but I want to start doing festivals. I'd love to sort of hop on tour with another major act if I can. At some point.
For sure.
And I think less about label deal. I'm sort of thinking about what kind of camp I would be. I would fit with. And I think that's a big thing for me. Whether and it's easy to just pick and choose. In your mind, like. Kendrick, or could I be with OVO, or Chance, But I think Chance is such a beautiful motto as far as really doing this shit yourself, and maybe I don't need a camp. Maybe I'll start my own camp, and maybe
because he's been able to make those business relationships and get that money. But also own everything himself. Yeah,
and I think Chance has really opened the door for an artist like myself, who speaks on positivity, speaks on community, while still able to sort of maintain this image of, he's got bars, you can sort of transcend any community. So I'd love to sort of, I think my job and unique perspective is sort of speaking on the line between race and culture, poetry and rap, art and music, and art and community, and sort of, and just like the human condition, man. I really want to expound on that. Learn more about it myself, learn more about it from others, and have that sort of inform my art. And happy because I think I'm finally getting, not rewarded. I think I've been praised for the art that I've made, but finally, like, man, you know, so many nights I've spent by myself in a hotel room in bumfuck, yo, like, what if nothing happened? Like, what if the art dies for real? What if you spent all of this time trying to work on something and put something in this earth to be remembered by, and that people will remember you by it, and it just poofs, or it just doesn't, and it doesn't amount to anything, or that people don't care, or that people's attention's, you know, like, what if all of this is just, and I think I had to get to a point where I was like, that's fine.
Yeah.
Were you
Cool. This is my health, man. This is for my health. You know, these bars I'm writing, like leather seating, you know, like those bars, when I'm like, such a shame, ain't for the fucking thing, when my uncle died, proves that only blood won't help a heart from feeling unobliged, and now you wonder why I hold my homies close, and North Carolina is on my mind, we are rocking, we on, you know, those things are not about me getting fed, it's not about people liking the shit, what I'm saying. It really is about me harnessing how I'm really feeling and putting it on wax and being able to listen back to it almost as like a journal entry.
Well, it's that vulnerability
that
people can connect to. You know, it's not. It's like you were saying. You know, what if you're worried that people don't connect? And one of the things people connect to most with artists is the vulnerability in their artist. Are they being true? And you know. It's clearly you are.
And I think it manifested in, like, you know, I didn't have a release date. I didn't do any promotion for it besides telling, you know, Facebook status that I'm doing this, and it dropped, and I was like, there it is. If you like it, you like it. Like, you know, I can't do nothing about it, but I do have 7 videos lined up. And I'm gonna let that do the marketing, and you know, Ego Trip coming out this week, and let's let it go where it goes. And I've been overwhelmed by the response on North Cat, and you know, Gun the Legend on there, you know, coming on the second, Kane, my mentor, growing up, and best friend, and Arm & Hammer on the hook, and homie Crumpin. I feel like Crumpin is very similar to Durham. People, you know, people shit on Crumpin, yo. Crumpin is like a punchline, but like the big Crumpin is like Lil Jon.
It makes me feel good to watch somebody crump.
Like
it makes me hype. It makes me want to start doing it.
You know, shouts to Ryan Native on that, Salim and Ned and Mandy, of course, all on. And it was a really beautiful team effort. Junior, who's homie's house I grew up with in 5th grade, right by his house, he let us come through. He was on his dirt bike, and you know, Wild Bill, you know, the legend, letting us use the truck, man. Shouts to, you know what I mean. So very, very much of a team effort, and I'm very, very proud of myself, I think, finally, and also Durham.
So
it's been beautiful.
Yeah. Well, let people know where to find you online or in person. I mean, if you're that kind of dude.
You catch me at G Yamazawa. If you could spell my name, you'll find me. It's G Yamazawa.
You really can't mess that up.
You can't, man. You can't.
It's pretty cool.
Well, actually, no, you definitely can. Definitely. I've been paid a lot of money for shows where they spell my name horribly. They butcher it on the program. Anyways. GYamazawa.com is kind of a one-stop shop for everything, with videos, listen, social media, bio, and all of that.
Tour dates, that kind of thing.
Tour dates and stuff. It's sort of in a construction period, but it's still dope page. And you can social media is on G Yamazawa, YouTube's G Yamazawa. And shouts to Durham on Apple, iTunes, or Apple, Spotify, Tidal, Amazon, Google Play, YouTube. You know what I mean? Your homie's
People
strong.
still buy it?
Huh? Yeah.
I know it's an insane question.
Through iTunes,
Well, iTunes, So iTunes, you know, you can copy it and download it.
Okay.
And also, I think there's a free, the songs are on YouTube as well.
Okay.
I'll probably put it on SoundCloud at some point in the future, but right now,
you should buy it.
You can find it.
This is
You can find it. Shouts to Durham.
It's worth the money, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
Thanks y'all for listening. Again, Justin, Runaway, Alex, G, James on the 1s and 2s back there. We appreciate y'all. We'll see you next time.
Later, y'all.
Peace so bad.